I'd like to welcome to the stage our next panel speakers, Matt Cooper and James Bray.
I'm a long way away.
Stay put, I thought. So, we're in the Google building. Very pleased to be here. And let's kick it off by getting right into the channel. So I think let's kick it off, James, by you telling us a bit about what you do at Google and how that connects with the Thoughtful Agency and our clients.
Of course. So hi, everybody. I'm James, for those that I haven't met before. I'm a market lead here at Google. I've been helping e-commerce businesses for the past 4.5 years, I guess growing their presence both here in Australia and abroad. And I've had the very, very fortunate, circumstances to be working with TTA in the past.
Fantastic. James, you work very closely with our team, including Matt. Matt, I'd love you to tell us a bit about your role here as a performance director.
Welcome and nice to see you all. As you described, I'm a performance director at Thoughtful, focusing predominantly across Google as a channel. Really proud of the team's work and development there, working alongside James and the amazing team to really push the channel. You touched on it there, and I'm sure throughout the rest of the day we'll probably be talking heavily about Google, but yeah, that kind of sums up my role.
Thanks, Matt. You've got the responsibility of doing the clicker, so let's get in at the ground level here just to understand the role of the channel and what it does play for our clients. So I want to talk about that sort of proportion of spend being a bit more evenly placed. And what we've got here is something for you to talk through in terms of the role of the Google channel and what it's played for our clients in 2025.
Yeah, so you touched on it nicely at the start, but we put a greater emphasis on Google, particularly the quality of traffic that we're trying to drive from the channel. We've seen it increase to about 19% according to GA4 sort of sessions across the board, which is putting it, as you mentioned, much more on an even kilter with Meta. Obviously, combined with a total of paid sources, we're driving almost about 50% from paid, but from my perspective, it's focusing where that traffic's coming from, what traffic we're generating, focusing away from brand reliance, brand traffic where possible, and really trying to drive new users, new acquisition to the site.
Yeah, I think I just want to point out a very important gold nugget in today's discussion. I get asked that question from a lot of CEOs and brand founders and CFOs, and they're asking me very specifically, what is the role of paid media to your overall contribution of traffic to site? This is our aggregated data across 35 full service brands we currently manage. That number is 49%, and of that 49%, obviously 19 is coming from Google. Year on year, our clients have increased their spend on Google by about 75%. Do you want to just talk to your focus with the team and how you've been talking to clients about the channel to give them more confidence?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Rev touched on it at the start. We know it's getting harder generally out there, so we really want to ensure that budget is really focusing on its purpose and really where we're allocating it. Obviously, in some instances, if you're a wholesaler, retailer, there's a case for brand protection, but really your own channels can do a lot of that heavy lifting. So Daniel talked about it, the growth of AI overview, those modes, that's going to increase the frequency of organic and your retained audiences. So really, when we're thinking at how we push the dollars, we really want to focus on that high quality new traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the role of the channel, we've established that. Matt, let's just talk about some of the wins in Google for the AU market in particular over the last 12 months. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so we worked quite hard over the last couple of years to create the Thoughtful Index, which is our proprietary data collating basically our 35 plus brands. And from that, we're able to identify market trends, both short term and long term. And from that, what we've seen with that increased investment as well that you touched on, Prav, is actually traffic costs are remaining stable. So even shifting away from brand focus, which often is much more sort of cost effective. We've been able to drive greater efficiencies in that traffic. So we're finding new users at a slightly more cost effective rate. And with the benefit of that, we've been able to drive down the cost per acquisition. So again, a large theme of what I'll probably talk about, and maybe James as well, is around that new customer focus. So really using Google as that conversion channel. Protecting, I guess, the leaky bucket at the bottom where your other dollars will be spent, and really focusing on how you can drive that conversion. Rev touched on it in terms of profitability and those market metrics. For us on Google, we still look at ROAS in the channel, as well as obviously utilizing other tools that James and the wonderful team have put together for us. But we can see profitability is rising as well. So as you increase spend, increase efficiency, profitability goes up. And that's where that high quality traffic conversion leap just keeps going.
James, I want to get your perspective because from the lens where I sit looking at our clients' data quite regularly, I'm super pleased with that CPA being down by 10%
Absolutely.
when we've increased spend by about 75% across the portfolio. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, reflecting on the way in which a lot of businesses used to operate with Google historically, I think for a lot of these businesses, they saw Google as purely being that, high intent purchasing channel. And when they, I guess, reflect on their marketing mix across Google, Meta, TikTok, from my perspective, we can never really compare it apples to apples. Each of those platforms would be complementary in nature, rather than competing in nature. So, the team here, they've done a fantastic job, obviously, to be able to scale things up, and seeing that, decrease in CPA at the same time as the increase in conversion rate is phenomenal.
Thanks, James. Conversely, the US, we had a tough time of it metric-wise last year. I know we said we weren't going to mention those two T words, Trump and tariff, because we're sick of talking about it. But in terms of a bit of a recap of last year, advertising clients in the US in particular, if we're based in Australia, we're investing into the US, we needed to be brave with our investment, right? Looking at the headwinds coming across here, we've just seen obviously what's happening in UAE as well. What do the headwinds look like for us, and how do we navigate that as digital marketers investing into international markets?
Yeah, I think this is kind of the $1 million question, really. And if I probably had the perfect answer, I'd be down there with you all instead of being up here on the stage running my own e-com business. But one of the things is, I think, while I wanted to acknowledge that obviously there are a range of economic headwinds, uncertainties that are facing the US markets, it's also important to recognise the fact that Australia also has its own set of economic headwinds. You'd probably be quite hard pressed to find a country somewhere in the world that isn't facing some form of economic turmoil. But from my perspective, really, the greater risk is to have all of our eggs in one basket, to only appeal and advertise to the Australian market. And through, I guess, taking that leap of faith and investing abroad, we're able to mitigate some of these risks. So, while there have been a significant shift in the metrics year on year, I would really encourage people to not shy away from the US as an opportunity. Australia's population, we are about 8% of the US total population. The retail sales in the US are growing at 3.8% year on year. And there are a number of states and, I guess, pockets of the population that are, not as affected as the others.
So you mentioned in a session that we had with our team recently around staying the course in terms of investment into the US in particular. And if you want to turn down your spend, let's not target the whole nation of the US, but maybe pockets where you are seeing good sales out of. So obviously New York, LA, Texas. Do you want to just talk to the geo approach? Yeah,
so my thinking on this is there's been a lot of third-party research, some from Google, some from others as well, that really speak to two key factors. One of those being targeting about 40% of your target demographic at a frequency of approximately 2 times a week at minimum. And if you're first entering a new market, be it the US or elsewhere, it's going to be really, really difficult to achieve those metrics if we're targeting the entire country. So from my perspective and what I've seen be really, really effective is just take a bit of a state-by-state approach, focusing on one state at a time, getting that correct frequency, reach, and growing from there.
Yeah, nice. So we've established the role of the channel. We know it's driving about 19% of sessions for our clients. a big part of that is that balance, Matt, that you and your team play across branded and non-branded search. Do you want to just use the example of Jalik, who are a client of Thoughtfuls, and just talk about how you yourself navigate these two campaigns?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a range of Google products within there, but just to kind of highlight our approach at Thoughtful around non-brand and brand and what we kind of define it as. Obviously, you've got your brand term there as the example on the left, and then more product and generic focus on the right. Your right, my left. But what we're trying to focus on is really driving that high intent quality traffic and how we can navigate those circumstances. So Juraleek is a good example here. Obviously, have wholesalers, retailers, there is a need to protect that own kind of D2C market. However, you're really going to see that growth and that new acquisition from more of the activity on my left, your right-hand side. And that's the way that we can measure incrementality, scalability, is finding and tapping into these high volume, high relevance terms.
Yeah, I think in terms of agency DNA, you'd say I've probably been a bit obsessed with talking to you about non-branded for the last 12 months.
Understatement.
But when I look at these numbers, I'm really happy to see that we haven't taken the easy option and been an agency that just cannibalized organic traffic and bid it on brand for vanity ROAS metrics. We've taken that, let's go out and find that new customer who is searching for products through Google. So talk us through.
Yeah, you're right. It's easily tested as well. We've got a pretty robust framework in terms of looking at multiple sources. Some of the amazing tech partners in here are also examples of helping us see those insights. But for us, when we're increasing those investments, we're really focusing on where we can add value rather than attract from existing retention. So you mentioned it, we increased investment overall within the portfolio, about 75%, and we've actually reduced that investment into brand. It's pretty easy to see, are we eating into organic? Are we seeing lifts in other sources? Are sessions down, revenue down? Those sorts of incrementality tests. And that's where we've seen the long-term growth. So yeah, pretty... Well,
What do you think, James?
I hope the room would agree, but pretty pleased with the results last year.
Is he doing a good job?
Yeah, I mean, look, I completely agree with the sentiment, and I'd probably go a little bit off script here in saying this, but it's completely right. You know, I think there's obviously a role that branded advertising, by branded advertising I mean, you know, paying to appear when somebody searches for your brand. But in terms of getting that incremental new customer acquisition, it's really critical that, you know, we as organizations are going after that generic category and going after individuals that aren't just have that really high intent for our brand.
Well summed up. So talk to us about Performance Max, launched in 2021.
Does that sound right, James?
Yeah, towards the end of 2021, yes.
And we all went on a massive education curve about its pros and cons and limitations, but I think we've found that sort of sweet spot now. Do you want to talk to how it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll start by saying it's developed over time, and obviously Google keep releasing new features that improve visibility of the campaign type and also our options to expand it. But really, this kind of also talks to it quite nicely that the majority of our spend across our campaigns are still in this campaign type. And the reason being is the ability to scale. So this is more of that intent audience focus. You can leverage creative, you can leverage your product feed, you can really lean into things like margin, so focusing on those products that can drive you the most profit. And for us, utilizing Google's own internal platform resources, so those audiences, the new customer focus, and then bid to things like target ROAS, so you can scale effectively and sustainably. So that's kind of one of the main perks, I would say.
Yeah, I think a lot of clients in the room today have probably experienced that journey of trying to unlock and demystify Performance Max. I personally think we should be doing creative workshops with our clients around PMax ad creative like we do for Meta. But yeah, that's all ahead of us, I guess.
I guess.
So yeah, I want to, unpack another area, which is, I think you've got a slide coming up here, just around the path to purchase journey in Google Shopping. I mentioned to someone earlier, I first came to this office in 2012 when they launched Google Shopping ads, and that was like how you can use it. But how are we using it to help that customer journey?
Yeah, I'll go first, and James, I'll let you jump on from your perspective. But Google uses the term the messy middle, and that's still true. There's never been more touch points for a consumer to shop around and purchase in different ways. Things like TikTok Shop that will come to Australia whenever they get round to it in 2026. But there's definitely different touch points, and the term messy middle has never been more true. The importance of showing up when you need to show up in those relevant places with that relevant audience is going to be the key between hitting your revenue target, growing year on year, those sorts of metrics. So for us, it's really being visible, utilizing the products, completing that consumer journey.
Yeah, nice. All right, last question, and we're getting towards the end of this session, which has been super productive. I want to just find out from both of you, for our clients in the room today who are heading back to, work on a Monday, setting up their trading week, what should they be thinking about in terms of Google? What are like 2 key takeaways, one from each of you?
I think just understanding the potential of the channel. I know this is probably a collaborative thing between an agency and your partners and brand marketers, but understanding really where your focus needs to lie on Google. Is it around certain categories, certain products? Is that really where you're going to drive your new collection, your sell-through rates, all of those things? And then really actually trying to analyze and test how much traffic's coming from retention. Is it more new customers? Is it your brand terms? Is it your specific best-selling product that you're known for? And really trying to figure out where the next step lies. So are you going to launch more search-specific campaigns? Are you going to run more specific creative within your Performance Max campaigns? That would be kind of my first point of call. So I'll look forward to that email on Monday.
They'll be coming thick and fast. James, thoughts?
I mean, from my end, it'd probably be, I'd regret not saying it for many of the businesses in the room here that are Metaverse, but obviously, work with your team on expanding out YouTube. It's a fantastic channel and one that I would encourage for many people to try out. But I think maybe going back to the point I made earlier on the international expansion piece is to please try not to shy away, that if you've had one, poor or negative experience to not completely give it up. I spoke a little bit about the state-by-state approach, but I think one thing that I'm not seeing enough businesses do, but something that when businesses do, it works really well, is to not sleep on the, Hispanic audiences over in the US. There's about 44 million individuals over there that are Spanish first speakers, 1.5 times the Australian population. And I guess in a time and world where personalization is key, being able to modify your assets, your creatives, your headlines to be able to make those individuals feel, heard and seen is really critical.
Yeah, fantastic. So you're talking about creative hooks on PMax. So, yeah, there's a lot of work that is up ahead of us in 2026. But, it was a nice chance just to reflect on the great work Matt, yourself, Emma, and the rest of the team at Thoughtful have been doing on Google. So thanks. That concludes our first panel.
Thanks, pal.
Thanks so much. Thank you.